Okay, I would like to call this regular meeting of Desert Water Agency to order on May 19th, 2026. This meeting is also being conducted virtually, and the link and telephone option were provided for the convenience of the public. And in order to reduce feedback, please mute your audio when you're not speaking, and anyone in the boardroom today in person, please mute any electronic devices. For discussions and questions, I will call on directors in roll call order. Director Bowman, Director Gracia, Secretary Treasurer Ortega, Vice President McKenna, and then myself. And all votes will be conducted via roll call. And now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Director Gracia to lead us, please.
Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I will ask Ms. Baca to conduct roll call, please.
Director Bowman,
Here.
Director Gracia,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Here.
Vice President McKenna,
Present.
and President Bloomer.
Present.
All present.
Okay, now it is time for public comment on items not on the agenda. This is the time for members of the public to comment on any item not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the agency. Speakers are requested to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes. As provided in the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from acting on items not listed on the agenda. And have we received any public comments via email?
No, we have not.
Okay. And I don't see anybody virtually wanting to make a comment and nobody in the boardroom. So we'll move on to public comment on items listed on the agenda. And this is the time for members of the public to comment on items listed on the agenda that are not subject of a public hearing at this time. Again, speakers are requested to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes. And have we received any comments via email?
No, we have not.
Okay. And I don't see anybody virtually or in the boardroom that would like to make a public comment. So we will move on to the consent calendar. And at this time, I would like to ask the board if they have any items that they would like pulled from the consent calendar. Director Gracia?
Yes, item F.
Okay.
Well, no, that's not the one. Which one is the conservation figures?
That's F.
Is that it?
Oh, sorry. E.
I think that's got to be it.
The March water use reduction figures?
Yes.
Okay.
Director Gracia, did you have a specific question? Or
Yeah, I just wondered, are we still on track and seeing a reduction in use across the system? I think the last time we looked at this.
Right now, it is at overall 6% reduction over 2020 but we do have Conservation Manager Clark Elliott here, if you'd like to step up and say kind of how we're trending for the year in comparison to our mandates.
Sure. So yeah, as General Manager Sines said, we have seen that 6% reduction. Ideally, that would be trending a little bit better than it is, although that's certainly still good progress. We are hopeful that with some of the things coming up, like our non-functional turf Ordinance 80 that we previously passed, that we're going to see some of those trends accelerate. We're also hoping to see our AMI customer portal launched later, potentially going to 2027, but potentially into late 2026. So just to point out that there are some factors that we have that we're hoping to see accelerate the trend going forward. We are making good progress, but in order to actually be in compliance, we'd expect it to be a little bit higher, to be honest.
I see. Thank you very much.
Any other items that
That's it for me. I move item 6, the consent calendar as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a first by Director Gracia and a second by Secretary Treasurer Ortega. And any further comment on the consent calendar items? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll move on to our action items. And first, 7A is the draft fiscal year 26-27 groundwater replenishment assessment engineering survey and reports for the West Whitewater River and Mission Creek subbasins. General Manager Sines.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Today we have with us Travis Romaine. He's with Krieger and Stewart, and he was integral in assisting the agency prepare our replenishment assessment report on the groundwater recharge program for fiscal year 26-27 upcoming. And as the board is aware, by May 1st of each year, DWA law requires that the board causes to prepare and presented an engineering survey and report concerning the groundwater supplies within the agency. And the report would include conditions of the groundwater supplies, the need for replenishment, and recommendations for that program, including the source amounts of replenishment water, the cost of purchasing, transporting, and spreading the water in conjunction with any proposed replenishment program. Also, the report is to describe the areas benefited either directly or indirectly and the amount of water produced in such area during the prior year shall recommend the amount of assessment to be levied upon all production within the service area. So we have prepared a draft report to achieve just this. And today really is to present the draft report to you and also to request that a determination be made that funds should be raised by a replenishment assessment charge consistent with our prior practice, as well as to set the time and place for a public hearing that we are recommending to occur on June 16th that we will take action to set the rates. But before we move into the report, I just want to give a little bit more background. So we do have Travis here to present that report to you, and DWA's proposed replenishment assessment rate is $255. Currently, it's $235. So current with our existing plan to increase $20 per year until we get up to that effective rate, which is the actual cost of the program, we would continue to go up about $20 per year to make that happen. And for reference, CVWD's proposed replenishment assessment rate for 26-27 is $172 per acre foot in the West Whitewater Subbasin area of benefit and $135 for the Mission Creek Subbasin area of benefit. Now, you will notice that it is quite different from DWA's rates. However, we have a little bit different methodology of how we go about funding our programs. We want our replenishment assessment to fund the replenishment program for the actual acre feet of water consumed and actually spread. And the capital charges of the State Water Project are on the State Water Project tax. So we attack a little bit different, which is why you see the much higher rate, but our tax rate is much less. And when we bring the draft budget to, we just reviewed it with the Finance Committee yesterday, our recommended proposal for our tax rate, which is the other half to that piece of the pie of how we generate the revenues to cover our programs. So with that, I'd like to pass it off to Travis. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to go over the report. I was tasked with preparing it on behalf of Krieger and Stewart this year. So a few things I wanted to note before getting started. There has been 2 recent updates to the report. The Table A allocation received a surprise increase from 30% to 45% in the last few weeks. Don't recall that ever being the case so late in the spring, but this year we had that good fortune. There was also been a slight adjustment. The DWA's Yuba Accord maximum possible allocation has increased slightly from 313 acre feet to 343 acre feet. Small change in the report. But overall, regarding the groundwater level conditions, we're seeing an overall generally positive trend. With regards to the West Whitewater River subbasin, We are seeing a general upward trend since the mid-2000s and a substantial upward trend in the last 4 years for the Palm Springs sub-area. For the San Gorgonio Pass sub-basin portion, this has shown a slow decline since the late 1980s, but there has been a noticeable slight upward trend in the last 2 years due to the increased recharge that has been ongoing. In the Garnet Hill sub-area, there has been steady to slightly increasing water levels since the late 1980s, and there has been some signs in the last few years of an upward trend. With regards to Mission Creek, there has been steady water levels since the late 2010s, and there has been a noticeable upward trend in the last couple years. Overall, these favorable trends are attributed to the ongoing replenishment, which is very much depicted by last year's overdraft numbers. Looking at non-artificial inflow, there was only 63,000 acre feet, which compared to a production of approximately 171,000 would have yielded a net overdraft of a decline of 108,000 acre feet in storage. However, with the artificial recharge that was ongoing of 264,000 acre feet, which is 4 times greater than the non-artificial recharge, there was actually a net increase of 156,000 acre feet in storage due to those efforts. Now, looking at the financial side, the Table A assessment rate that's projected for this upcoming fiscal year is $224 per acre foot. Once admin and operational costs are added in, the total overall costs are $291 per acre foot. Currently, we are proposing an assessment rate of $255 per acre foot, which means we're still short by nearly $36 an acre foot, but we are working on closing that gap with each year of the ongoing increases. Looking forward, there is a anticipated shortage or shortfall until the 2028-2029 fiscal year, when the assessment rate reaches $295 per acre foot, at which time in the report we addressed it by just smaller increases to kind of keep pace with the cost increases at that point. And with that, I am available for any questions regarding the draft report.
Okay, Director Bowman, any questions?
No questions, but just a general comment. It is so apparent to our valley that we need the recharge. If we didn't have the recharge, we wouldn't have a valley. And I appreciate all the work of our staff, CVWD staff, to make sure that we're getting, and the state, of course, giving us more than we were thinking they were going to give us.
Yes.
Director Grasha, any questions?
There was a comment at another board meeting for another agency that it sounded like they were trying to declare the Coachella Valley as one of the only watersheds in the state that is in a positive, where the water's coming up. I don't know if they went so far as to declare it to be true, but there was it sounded like that might be the case. And I just wondered if you were willing to go out on a limb, or maybe next year when you come back, you can tell us what the answer to that is. So
I'm not familiar with that statement being made, but this is the only basin that I know of that's improving.
right.
We work with quite a few throughout the state, and there are a number that are in drastic need of some sort of action, and they're not getting the necessary attention.
Yeah.
So I would say this basin is certainly the best managed one that I know of.
Thank you very much. I think we have a great staff, great consultant, goes back to the 50s in the Coachella Valley providing this service. And I hope that that can continue on for 100 more years.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
I have nothing else to add, but thank you.
Vice President McKenna.
A terrific amount of detail in this report. Of course, I digested it all right away. I'll be looking at it in more detail. I had a very broad question. I don't know if it's a question for you or for staff. The replenishment access fee charge, ours up in the $290 range, but Coachella Valley Water District is about $100 less. Is that because their cost of water is less? What causes that difference?
No, that's what I was attempting to address in my opening statement. So yes, there is a drastic difference between DWA and CVWD's replenishment assessment rates. Now, if our current tax rate is 6 cents per $100 of assessed valuation, CVWD's is 10 cents. So it's just what funding source is being utilized to pay for these charges. We do have charges that are paid for by the replenishment assessment charge that do appear on the statement of charges that is allowable for us to use our state water project tax to pay for that. However, we have taken the stance that those charges, they are more attributed to the water itself replenished and produced. So we want to apply those charges to each acre foot that is produced. And we want to use our state water project tax, which is essentially the funding for the availability and the capability of transporting and receiving that water to be paid for by the tax for the state water project. We have a different strategy. It's just what source of funds is paying for the program as a whole.
I have a follow-on to that. As you know, there is discussion about Coachella Valley's ID8 district changing from Coachella Valley to Mission Springs. Hypothetically, since it is the hypothetical, would those customers pay a lower rate of tax if that transfer happened? Or would they pay the same rate of tax and the higher utility bill that Mission Springs will generate for them?
They will pay the same amount of tax that they currently do because ID8 is within the jurisdictional area of Coachella Valley Water District. Therefore, they are paid Coachella Valley Water District's tax rate. Now, if the retail service of that moves over into Mission Springs Water District's jurisdiction, the jurisdiction for the replenishment is still in CVWD, so they will still remain that same tax rate. And they will remain in CVWD's jurisdictional area for the replenishment assessment charge as well. So all will remain the same as it currently is as far as those two components.
That I will study a bit further. It seems to create two classes of customer in the Mission Springs district. But I don't expect you to know the answer to that. So, but I'll think about it. Thanks.
Okay, Director Gracia?
There was an extemporaneous comment on the subject of the difference between the rates once at a CVWD board meeting years ago. I do not know if the comment, it was something that you could take to the bank, but that the reason, one of the reasons they haven't been increasing is because they don't actually recharge. And something to that effect. And I wondered if there was, well, we own the recharge facility up there. And as I understood it, that was, there was some pull in the direction that's because we don't have to raise it because we're really not providing the recharge. So
DWA and CVWD both recharge into the Mission Creek subbasin. We do own and operate the Mission Creek recharge facility just the same way that CVWD owns and operates the recharge facility in the West Whitewater subbasin. Now, we proportionately recharge our water based off of our production in each subbasin as well as by each entity. So they do participate in the recharge and they pay their proportionate share of DWA's facility fees for how much water is recharged. The same as we pay our proportionate share of the West Whitewater recharge facility fees for their capital and maintenance and everything. So, and we have a settlement agreement back from, I believe it's 2004, that between CVWD, Mission Springs Water District, and Desert Water Agency that dictates how we proportion out our water deliveries and recharge them. And so, yes, and that's why I can factually say, yes, that does occur as well as our ongoing practice.
thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so I'll look for a motion to accept the draft.
Move the item as recommended.
I'll second that.
Okay, perfect. We have a first by Director Grasha and a second by Secretary Treasurer Ortega. And any further comments? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to 7B, request authorization for general manager to execute lease agreement for Snow Creek Cabin with Christopher Dolan. Assistant General Manager Tate.
Thank you, President Bloomer and members of the board. Desert Water Agency has maintained a caretaker cabin in Snow Creek for decades. Recently, the agency moved from using a caretaker at Snow Creek to a full-time security guard for all agency facilities. This new employment model requires a new lease agreement with the current resident of Snow Creek Cabin. At the February 3rd, 2026 board meeting and closed session, staff was given direction to negotiate the lease terms with the current occupant of the Snow Creek Cabin. Staff has negotiated the lease agreement and the tenant is ready to sign. The key terms of the lease agreement are a 1-year lease with 4 one-year extension options, $1,000 per month rent, increasing annually with CPIU. Items included in the lease are 900 kilowatts of electricity per month, Wi-Fi, 20 gallons of potable water per week, and septic services. Access is restricted on Snow Creek property outside of the leased area. There is no prior action. The fiscal impact of this is in the 25-26 fiscal year, it'll be $1,000. In the 26-27 fiscal year, it'll be approximately $11,000. Finance Director Slough has reviewed this report. Legal has reviewed the lease agreement. This aligns with strategic, our goal number 1, sustainability, and that is 1.4.3 to pursue non-rate revenue sources to support agency operations, conservation, and customer assistance programs. Staff recommends the board authorize the general manager to execute the lease agreement for the Snow Creek Cabin with Christopher Dolan. Attached, you will find a copy of the lease agreement. So thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions, Director Bowman?
None from me. Thank you for all your work.
Director Grasha?
Yeah, I wondered if you could expand a little bit on the 20 gallon of potable water. Is he on a tank, a trucked water, or?
So this is a result of the Snow Creek filtration plant. So prior to that, the water was potable. And when we added the filtration plant, that made the water up there non-potable. It's still creek water. It's essentially the same as he's been using, but it's non-potable as state requirements. The state said we could either put a multi-$100,000 filtration plant up there or put on the sign on the door that said it was non-potable.
All right.
And provide them with an alternative source.
So he's not limited to showering 2 minutes a week?
He still has a connection to the water, just showering, washing dishes, laundry, stuff like that. He can use it. He still has access to non-potable water.
Right. Great. Okay. That answers that question. Thank you very much.
Okay, Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
Well, kind of following along that. So what, we're providing him bottled water? Is that the 20 gallons a week?
Sparklets.
Okay.
So we have, through our lab, we use bottled water. So we added that onto the lab order. So there's 20 gallons per week that's delivered to the lab, and he goes there and picks it up. And takes it.
Okay. And what happens if he were to use more electricity than is stated in the lease?
We have it built in there that there is a price per kilowatt hour.
Okay. And that
we don't
applied separately to the rent.
Exactly.
If that were to happen.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's 31 cents. I think that's what I added in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's historically been an issue. It's a smaller cabin.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Vice President McKenna?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions, so I'll look for a motion.
move the item as presented.
And I'll second that.
Okay. And we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to action item 7C, request adoption of resolution number 1364, authorizing and approving the submission for U.S. Bureau of Reclamation Small Scale Water Efficiency Projects Grant. Mr. Elliott.
Sure. So we have a lot of background here. I will spare you reading all of it. But the the idea is that we are pursuing a grant funding opportunity for the fiscal year 2026 grant for small scale water efficiency projects. This grant would give us a $100,000 of grass removal funding. We would have a $150,000 match requirement. I will just mention for this, we did decide to go with a 60-40 match requirement because it made our grant more competitive. So essentially, if we decided to spend a little bit more money, we would get additional points on our application. But there's still the potential that we spend $150,000 and get $250,000 of benefit. If we are awarded the grant, that would encumber us to $150,000 of funds in the next fiscal year. So Finance Director Slough reviewed the report. Legal also separately reviewed the resolution, and our recommendation is that we adopt the resolution, which is a requirement of applying for this grant.
Okay. Any questions, Director Bowman?
No questions, but nice and crisp. Wonderful. Thank you.
Director Gracia, any questions?
No questions. Maybe one. The $150,000 that could come out of our existing budget, right?
That's correct. We already have more than enough funds budgeted, included in the draft budgets to cover this. So it will not increase the amount that we would be placing in the budget.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
No, I don't have any other questions.
Vice President McKenna?
I have none, thank you.
And I have none, and I hope we get the grant and all the.
I'd like to move recommendation for 1364.
Okay, we have a first by Director Bowman
I'll second that.
and a second by Secretary Treasurer Ortega, and now we will do roll call vote, please.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7D, request board authorization to call for bids for the drilling of pumping plant number 46 in Palm Oasis. Mr. Mulhawk.
Good morning, President Bloomer and members of the board. I'm here this morning to request authorization to call for bids for the drilling of pumping plant number 46 in Palm Oasis. Desert Water Agency staff has been working with Krieger and Stewart Consulting Engineers on the design and contract preparation for drilling pumping plant number 46. This proposed well will serve to provide supply resiliency and operational flexibility for both the Palm Oasis and base zones. With authorization granted today, the public call for bids will be advertised beginning May 21st, with bids required to be submitted by July 9th. Bids will then be reviewed for completeness and compliance, and staff will return to the board to request authorization to award. There's no prior action on this item. The fiscal impact project 221067D00 has available budget of $1.582 million for this bid. Finance Director Slough has reviewed the report. No legal review is required at this juncture. This aligns with our strategic plan, Goal 3, modernization, and Initiative 3.1.1, ensure the ability to effectively serve our retail water customers with the agency's distribution system infrastructure. And with that, staff recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the call for bids for the drilling of well pumping plant number 46 in Palm Oasis. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, perfect. Any questions, Director Bowman?
None from me.
Director Gracia?
A couple. Have you had issued an engineer's estimate on this? How much this is going to cost?
The engineer's estimate is 2 million. With that, this project's kind of, they don't come around very frequently and a bit volatile in terms of the bids. So at this point, we're kind of waiting to see what those bids come back as to see if we need to adjust.
So this is drilling a new well?
Correct.
Okay, the next question I had was the Palm Oasis and base zones. Do you know offhand how many services are connected to those two zones?
I do not. I say Palm Oasis is just over 1,000 probably, and the base zone is the majority of our system.
Okay, so then this will serve a wide population
That's correct.
from a remote location, I would say, right? Okay. I would call it remote. I don't know if it is, but it seems like every time I drive out there, it gets further away every time.
As Ryan mentioned, this will add resiliency to that community. In the recent history, we've gone from 2 wells, which we currently have out there, to 1 well to no well. One due to mechanical issues, another one due to bacteriological issues. And it was a little bit of a tense moment. And after that, we decided we should drill a 3rd well out there. The water will be conveyed into the main system, which, as Ryan mentioned, is the bulk of our system. So it's not going to be unused, but it'll add quite a bit of resiliency to that neighborhood.
So is this going to be located in a property that already has a well? One of our,
It's adjacent to an existing well out there. We have well 17, and we own approximately 5 acres next to it. And it's going to be drilled on that property.
I'm finding it interesting that the estimate is 2 million, and I've been hearing numbers way over that for new wells. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes back.
That might be fully equipping the well.
Oh, okay. So
That'll be another number.
Yeah, correct.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I will be coming back to you at that time
Great.
for some more funds.
Because I was thinking more like 7 million, but that's just based on what they did at Western Water. They just finished one. It came in at 7.5 million complete. And I don't know if that's the new price, but I think the last time we talked about this, we were at 5 million, and I heard someone in the background say 5.5 million. So I don't know what's.
It really depends on how you equip the well. There's a lot of variance in what you can get on the system. At Western, they might have added a lot of bells and whistles.
They built a building around it, so I assume that must have been.
It all adds to the cost.
Yeah, right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, this is just for the drilling only, which also has variables.
So this doesn't
depth
include
and
this,
size and lots of
the switches and the pumps and
none of that.
motors.
Literally a hole in the ground with a
I
casing.
see. Okay. Now I get it. Thank you.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Vice President McKenna?
This could be pilot error on my part. When I click on the attachments on the board agenda, I get a different document. So maybe we check that before we close the records on this. Anyone else have that problem?
Okay, I don't have any questions, but I will just make one comment. I know that this has also been budgeted in the draft budget for this next fiscal year as a capital project or extraordinary expense or whatever category it's in.
We already have funds budgeted, and
Yeah.
so this is not, so it will carry over into the following fiscal year. Our capital carries over until it's either been used or determined that we don't need it anymore. So, and as engineering manager Mulhook indicated, if we need to make adjustments, then we will come back and augment that budget.
Okay, great. So now I would look for a roll call vote, please. Oh, sorry, motion first.
I'll make the motion to accept the staff report.
I'll second. Now a roll call vote.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna.
Did it again. My apologies. Aye.
And President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. 7E, request board authorization to call for bids for constructing the Avenida Caballeros 30-inch pipeline, the one that crosses the Barristo Channel and Toshiba Creek Channel project. Mr. Mohawk.
Hello, board again. I would like to request authorization to call for bids for constructing the Avenida Caballeros 30-inch pipeline section crossing Barristo Channel into Chiva Creek Channel. The 2020-21 capital improvement budget included project 21060030 for a replacement pipeline project, approximately 2,600 feet from Ramon to Taguas Canyon Way, with a budget of $3.545 million. Due to the timeline for a permit required by the Army Corps of Engineers for this stretch of pipeline that crosses the Barristo Channel into Chiva Creek Channel, the project was split into two phases. The first phase included 1,980 feet of the pipeline and was completed in 2024. Now that the Army Corps of Engineers permit has been acquired, the second phase is ready for construction. The second phase includes approximately 620 feet, including approximately 100 lineal feet of bore and jack underneath the channels, and connects to the pipeline installed in the first phase. With authorization granted today, a public call for bids will be advertised beginning May 21st, with bids required to be submitted by June 18th. Bids will then be reviewed for completeness and compliance, and staff will return to the board to request authorization to award. Prior action, March of 23, the board approved call for bids for constructing phase 1. May of 23, the board awarded the bid for the construction of phase 1. In October of 24, the board accepted phase 1 as complete. Fiscal impact. Project has a remaining available budget of just under 1.2 million. Phase 2 estimated costs, including construction, inspection, engineering support, and agency labor, is approximately 1.4 million. As such, an additional 400,000 is being requested in the 26-27 budget request. Finance Director Slough has reviewed this report. No legal actions required at this time. This aligns with Goal 3 of our strategic plan, Initiative 3.1.1, ensure the ability to effectively serve our retail water customers with the agency's distribution system infrastructure. And with that, staff recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the call for bids for constructing the Avenida Caballeros 30-inch pipeline crossing Barristo Channel into Chiva Creek Channel. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions, Director Bowman?
None from me.
Director Gracia?
No questions.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
No.
Vice President McKenna?
This is the little piece that we didn't do last time because the Corps of Engineers needed to sign off on it.
Correct.
So it takes us from Ramon up to Tuckwitz. North of that, is it new pipeline or old pipeline?
The majority of that is new.
New.
I believe there's a small section, I forget the streets off the top of my head, that's kind of was installed, I think, in the late 90s, so still new relatively.
Right.
But that essentially completes the big majority of Caballeros.
And the new pipeline
large pipeline going through.
The new pipeline is much bigger than the old one.
Correct.
But so it's now, I think 14 inches, now 14-inch all the way up Caballeros?
No, it's now 30 or 36 inch, the majority of the way, except for that small portion I mentioned.
Oh, good. The majority of the way. I'm just, does it get larger, smaller, larger, smaller? Is that the case, or is it consistent all the way through?
No, there's a section that's still 16-inch that I was referring to that was installed back in the
90s?
In the 90s.
Which hasn't been leaking, I hope.
No, has not.
Yeah, anyway. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, the general plan calls for replacement with a larger main when that
Eventually.
pipeline's ready to be replaced.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I don't have any questions, so I'll look for a motion.
Move the staff recommendation.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first by Director Gracia and a second by Secretary Treasurer Ortega, and now we'll do a roll call vote.
Director Bowman?
Aye.
Director Gracia?
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
Aye.
Vice President McKenna
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, 7F, request board authorization to call for bids for constructing the 2024 summer replacement pipeline project. Mr. Rohlik.
Board, I'm here to request authorization to call for bids for constructing the 2024 summer replacement pipeline project. The 22-23 capital improvement budget included project 22-1062-008 for replacement pipeline project. Approximately 9,000 feet of 8-inch, 300 feet of 12-inch, 1,500 feet of 16-inch, with a budget amount of just under $5.3 million. The project has been divided into 3 areas. The attached maps show the location for the replacement pipelines. Existing water mains are approaching their end of life and need to be replaced due to increased leaks. With authorization granted today, a public call for bids will be advertised beginning May 21st, with bids required to be submitted by June 18th. Bids will then be reviewed for completeness and compliance, and staff will return to request board authorization to award the contract. There's no prior action on this. Fiscal impact, the project has available budget of $5.223 million, and Finance Director Slough has reviewed this report. No legal reaction is required at this time. This project aligns with our strategic plan goal 3 modernization, initiative 3.1.1, ensure the ability to effectively serve our retail water customers with the agency's distribution system infrastructure. And with that, staff recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the call for bids for constructing the 2024 summer replacement pipeline project. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions, Director Bowman?
None from me.
Director Gracia?
I have no questions.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
Yeah, I have a couple. So when we're calling this the 2024, does that indicate that we had hoped to do it in 2024 and just haven't gotten around to it, or?
That's what that indicates,
Yeah.
correct?
And because of these are broken up into 3 distinctive packages, if you will, or neighborhoods where this work is happening, is it potential, or when you have a call for bids, is it potential that somebody might bid 3 separately, or is it all or nothing as far as what you're going to accept as a complete bid?
Yeah, the bid is going out for all 3 areas being bid out now. Don't know what the bids will hold, but we're expected that the bids will come back to complete the whole.
Because this is
the whole
I mean,
project.
I look at this. If this is a lot of work for you guys,
Yes.
right? If these 3 are going all at the same time potentially, because you might be working with one contractor or several contractors, seems like a lot to take on.
It is a lot of pipeline. However, this is pretty typical size for what we do replacement wise. Multiple neighborhoods at a time. Sometimes it's 2 neighborhoods. Sometimes it's 1 large neighborhood. It just depends on the needs and where the leaks are happening.
Okay, thank you.
I have one thing to add.
Oh.
This will be one contractor, and we will work with them to make sure that the project is phased. So they're not just going to attack everything at once. They'll do one phase and get it to an area that we feel comfortable letting them on, and then we will release them into the next phase. So we stage it.
Vice President McKenna?
My only comment is, keep it going, keep it going. Thanks.
And I don't have any comments or questions, so I'll look for a motion.
I move the staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have first by Director Gracia and a second by Secretary Treasurer Ortega, and we will do a roll call vote.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item 8, is a public hearing, and we'll wait for, I guess we can just open the public hearing. So this is a public hearing to comply with Government Code Section 3502.3, Assembly Bill 2561, to present the status of vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts before adoption of the agency's final budget. This item is heard in accordance with AB 2561, which mandates public agencies conduct a notice public hearing each fiscal year prior to budget adoption to present information on the status of their job vacancies, recruitment and retention efforts. Human Resources Director Hopping will present information to comply and provide transparency related to these considerations. The public will be afforded an opportunity to speak and provide their testimony and comments during the public comment period of this hearing. Now I will ask Director Hopping to present, I will open the public hearing. I have to do that, right? Okay. So the public hearing is open, and I will ask Human Resources Director Hopping to present her report.
Thank you so much. So the background you've kind of already covered, but this is something that I'm going to be coming to the board every year with. And it's just to do an update on our vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts, just to kind of do an ongoing basis. The first time we did this was last year. It became effective January 1, 2025. And we are required to do this prior to the board getting the budget and approving the final budget. So that's why we're doing it today. So pursuant to the government code, we do the public hearing once a year. And then if we don't do a multi-year annual budget, so we can skip that part. The employee organization participation, we do have one organized union, and that's the Teamsters, Local 1932. They were notified of the hearing and invited to attend and present. And we have, unless they're on the call, I have not gotten a response, but they were invited to be here to present. There's also a requirement if we have high vacancy rates, if a single bargaining unit meets or exceeds 20% of authorized full-time positions that are available. There's a special added part of the presentation. We do not have that issue here, so we don't need to do part 3. So what I'm going to do is do my presentation and answer any questions that you may have at this time. And then the recommendation will be to accept as presented. So as we said, this is the effective January 1, 2025, the government code section 3502.3 was added to the Myers-Milius-Brown Act, the MMBA. The MMBA authorized local public employees to form, join, and participate in employee organizations of their own choosing. So that is the MMBA is the document that an agency that does union activities and protects union activities for public employees. There's a statewide interest in ensuring that public agency operations are appropriately staffed and that high vacancy rates do not undermine public employee or labor relations. So that's why we have to do this. Public agencies shall present the information in the public hearing and include the status of vacancies, recruitment and retention efforts, and any necessary changes to policies and procedures to anything that has changed to lead to obstacles in the hiring process. And again, if the vacancy rate is 20% of the bargaining unit, there's extra conditions, which luckily we don't have, because that would be a lot of people. So our selection process overview, just to remind you, this hasn't changed since last year. So the first thing we do is create a requisition and obtain approvals to fill a position. So even if the position is budgeted, we do make sure that it's at the right time of the year to fill it. So the authorization starts with the department head and goes through the assistant general manager and the general manager before it comes to me to start the filling process. Then we post the position internally, externally, or both. So some positions we may want to just promote from within, so we'll just do it internally. Most vacancies we post internally and externally. That's been the trend that we've been doing, just to kind of see where our best choice is for the person that we need for that slot. Then we review the candidates, determine interviewees. We do the formal interviews. I'm in all the interviews, and then it's usually David Tate is in a lot of them with me. And then the department head or supervisor for the position is in those interviews, because obviously we want them to be able to pick their own person. And then we make a selection and do our conditional job offer. So that's our overview of our process. So for 2025 calendar year, we had 95 full-time budgeted positions. We had positions, 2 of them were filled with promotions from within, 11 were posted and filled with a new hire. And our average time from a position vacancy to hire is 102 days for outside people. As of May 19th, as of today, we have 4 open positions, so our agency-wide vacancy rate is just about 4%. 3 of the current vacancies are in the Teamsters bargaining unit. 1 is a management position. The open positions of fleet mechanic 1 and water surface worker 1 locator are currently closed applications. We are beginning the reviewing process, and we hope to do interviews within the next couple of weeks. The other 2 open positions, engineering technician 1 and director of IT cybersecurity, have been reopened. Both of those candidates, for different reasons, removed themselves from the process after selection, so we had to restart. So we have a closing date to be determined, and hopefully we'll get those filled as soon as we can, as soon as we find the right people. Hiring issues and solutions. We launched our new career page on April 1st. This has made the application process easier for applicants and also provided supervisors with a better tool to review candidates and determine which candidates to interview. On both my end and on the applicant side, it is a much easier page to navigate, and you get for our viewpoint, we get a much better view of everybody's each candidate's application, all of their qualifications. They can do a lot of attachments. There's questions we can ask specific to each job that has been very helpful to review them. So it's been so far, we're knock on wood, I'm really liking the new program that we're using. And the candidates, I haven't gotten one call saying that they got stuck and can't get their application submitted, so that's good. We continuously review applicable policies, procedures, and recruitment activities to look for potential obstacles to our hiring process and recruitment efforts. So we look at our hiring policies, recruitment process, salary and benefits, classification, job descriptions, and position requirements, advertising and outreach, and staff development. So it's an ongoing, we're never going to be stagnant as far as that kind of stuff goes, because we want to make sure we're always improving. So for retention information, in 2025, we had a total of 6 employee non-retirement separations, and we had 3 retirements. So our total separation rate is 6.31% for the 6 separations, and our turnover rate for the 4 resignations that we had was 4.21%. So that's really good. And our retention efforts, we have our employee recognition program, our employee suggestion program, the ad pay and one-time incentive program that was approved by the board has been very well received by staff, and I think that's really a good way to incentivize them growing their skill sets. It's great. We have the full benefits package and benefits enhancements that we've been doing. We have the COLA in our current contract to get the cost of living increase for staff. We offer the traditional schedule or the 980 work schedule. At this point, we're down to probably 5 people working traditional schedule. The 980 has been a definite hit. And then we have our wellness program that will be rolling out what we got with the grant to our staff. But I can't tell you yet because I don't know. It's a surprise. And then we have 2 employee assistance programs for free counseling and assistance with any sort of trouble that may come with just general life things that happen to everybody. So the employee assistance programs are great. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, perfect. Any questions or comments, Director Bowman?
None from me.
Director Grasha?
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
Well, thank you.
Vice President McKenna?
None for me, thanks.
Okay, and I have none. And so at this time, I'd like, if anyone is here from Teamsters Local 1930 that would like to provide any comments or presentation. They're not here. Okay, so now it's time to open public comment. This is a time where members of the public are invited to provide their testimony as it relates to this item only as part of the public hearing process, and to keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Seeing none here in the boardroom and none virtually, I will now close public comment and thank members of the public for their testimony, which there was none. And now I will entertain a motion to accept this staff report.
So moved.
Tie. I'll give it to Director Bowman. The first and the second for Director Grasha, and now we'll do a roll call vote.
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Grasha,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Ortega,
Aye.
Vice President McKenna,
Aye.
and President Bloomer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Now we will close the public hearing. Okay, item number 9, Secretary Treasurer's report. Secretary Treasurer Ortega.
Thank you. So these are the financial highlights for the previous month, April 2026. In the operating fund, we had water sales of a little over 4 million, and recycled water sales of about 88,000, wastewater revenue receipts of about 138,000. Took in 15,000 in deposits for one project, Serena. Miscellaneous receipts from the city of Palm Springs for their portion of the turf rebate reimbursement were close to $57,000 in this month. And then $23,000 in miscellaneous receipts from the sale of a dump truck, apparently. Paid out about $5.2 million in accounts payable. Our water sales year to date are 1% under budget. Revenues are also 1% under budget, and total expenses are 19% under budget. So looks like we're doing pretty well there. I'll skip the, here we are. Active potable water services. There were 23,866 active potable water services that were billed in the month of April. And that compares to 23,869 in the previous month of March. So a net decrease of 3 active services billed. Accounts that were 59 water accounts that were turned off for non-payment in the month of April. Over the past 12 months, an average of 42 accounts per month are turned off for non-payment, which works out to about 2.1% of annual disconnections. Moving to the general fund, we received $1.7 million in property taxes and about $24,000 in replenishment assessments. We paid out about $5.2 million in state water project charges. And year to date, that number is $25,290,245. And moving to wastewater, the wastewater fund, we received $1.4 million in operating fund reimbursements and paid out a little over $100,000 in accounts payable. There were 2,295 active sewer accounts billed in the month of April compared to the previous month of 22,092. So the net increase of 3 active services billed. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Bowman? Director Grasha?
No questions. Thank you.
Vice President McKenna?
None for me, thanks.
And I don't have any questions, so
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we can move on to item number 10, General Manager's Report. General Manager Science.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. First, I'd like to start off with a verbal update, and Krieger and Studio Representative Travis, he already alluded to this one, that last Friday, we received an allocation increase, and this was after this report was prepared and posted. So despite the state's largest reservoir, which is our snowpack, which is only about 12% of average, we did receive an update in our state water project allocations from 30% to 45%. Though the water year has been pretty volatile this year with long dry stretches, short and intense storms, heat waves that melted the snowpack in early spring. But despite all this, it's ultimately been an above average water year. The main factor for the increase was that statewide, the state water project reservoirs are 117% of average for this time of year. And also, consistent rainstorms in April provided runoff through the system that allowed DWR to capture more water and meet environmental regulations without using stored water. I'd like to provide an update also on the Delta Conveyance Project, the Delta Stewardship Council. So on October 17th of last year, the Department of Water Resources did submit a certification of consistency for the Delta Conveyance Project to the Delta Stewardship Council. That certification confirms that the project aligns with the Delta Plan's policies and regulations. And on April 23rd, the Stewardship Council voted to accept the staff recommendations regarding DWR's certification of consistency that was filed for the Delta Conveyance Project. The Stewardship Council confirmed with the conditions that the project is consistent with the Delta Plan and rejected a majority of the appeals filed by appellants. By taking this action, the Stewardship Council determined that the administrative record contains substantial evidence supporting the project's consistency with the Delta Plan overall. However, there were 2 remaining technical issues that were remanded for a future additional addressing, and that being a golden mussel mitigation strategy as well as a facility sitting and land use compatibility. So in response to those remanded items, the public water agencies are currently collaborating with DWR to conduct additional research and develop an appropriate golden mussel mitigation strategy. And also, they believe the existing evidence in the record indicates that DWR has considered the feasibility of avoiding conflicts with existing planned land use, and we'll be highlighting that. This confirmation does mark a critical milestone in the development of the Delta Conveyance Project while ensuring regulatory compliance and transparency. We also have another update on the Delta Conveyance Project regarding the Supreme Court appeal. As you recall, the DWR is currently undertaking efforts to validate their authority to issue bonds in order to finance the Delta Conveyance Project. On December 31st, 2025, the 3rd District Court of Appeals issued their opinion rejecting the validation attempt. This was the first validation attempt, citing that the bond plan and the project description were too vague. Granted, the project description was intentionally vague at that point in time. I do not recall the exact date that it was filed, but it was much earlier in the 2020s. And the project was not fully defined yet as in the design and its facilities, and so it was intentionally vague. And understanding that in April, later on in January 2025, the case is still pending. DWR issued a second validation action attempt with a narrower project scope. But back to the original validation. In response to that appellate court ruling, DWR did file a petition to the California Supreme Court to hear the case as it is of statewide significance. Unfortunately, on October 15th, 2026, the Supreme Court denied DWR's petition for review and rejected the request to depublish the 3rd District's opinions. Now it is preserved as precedent. This is not, this does not mean we stop our efforts. There are current efforts still underway for this validation action, as well as the validation. In addition to the validation that's proceeding through the courts, other financing routes remain our legislative authorization or a public bond measure. So efforts are ongoing to secure the financing authority for the project. For Sites Reservoir, I'd like to give an update on the benefits and obligations contract negotiations. On Friday, May 8th, after the Aqua Conference, I headed up to Maxwell, California, where the Sites Authority Board and Reservoir Committee representatives and the respective legal counsel, so our legal counsel was there with me as well, and we discussed the outstanding key provisions of the benefits and obligations contracts that were in need of revisions. The topics included governance. Really what this is so those that are paying for the project, the participants, those who are receiving the benefit, they ultimately we want to make sure that we will retain our voice in the governance of operations and maintaining of the project. And to maintain the proportionate authority, there's a reservoir committee and there's the authority board. The authority board is local, are the local participants as well as other entities, counties and everything. So there is local governance over the project, but there are others who are not in Northern California, such as ourselves, who are on the reservoir committee, which will then become the reservoir management committee after the project is constructed. And the contract is currently written to maintain the current structure. However, if there's a legal challenge in the future, we want to make sure that we still maintain our same proportionate voice. For downstream capacity, this is to maintain defined interest in downstream capacity facilities with the authority to use, sell, transfer, and lease capacity. Currently, previously it was defined as just a proportionate share, but that can mean something that you have invested in and paid for could be kind of taken away from you if someone else came and then wanted to use the facilities. Potentially someone who is who was northern could sell to someone who needed the southern transportation facilities, and they would kind of reallocate and realign. We did not want that. We want to make sure what we paid for is what we maintain access to it and we have decision points around. So that's regarding the downstream capacity. Also, we address additional terms related to the acquirer, which is DWR, and for the Sites Authority Board to delegate the authority to the Reservoir Management Board, of which we will be a participant on, and for the amendment of Appendix X, which is the appendix within the benefits and obligations contract that governs how DWR and the project will be engaged. And this goes again to making sure those who are impacted maintain control and maintain their voice at the table. The fourth item is partner facilities to clarify the obligation of the Sites Authority to protect and control sites' water-related performance expectations, and also the release of water and point of delivery. Really, this is to define the Sacramento River as an optional delivery point with an affirmative commitment to deliver the water to that point by maintaining appropriate partner facility use agreements. Now, the project has always been designed and contemplated and about to get the water to the Sacramento River, because that is what enables those participants who are located south of Delta to be able to receive that water. And so we want assurances through all reasonable efforts that the water will be delivered there. Now, these are not owned facilities by the participants or by the sites reservoir. They are partner facilities, and this was done to limit the cost and for cost containment measures to be able to use excess capacity in other transportation facilities for the transportation of sites water. So we want assurances that either Sites Authority, you will maintain these agreements, these partner facility uses, or we have the backup option of extending a pipeline, of course, at more expense. So all reasonable efforts will be used to maintain those agreements. As an outcome of that negotiation, substantial progress was made with clear direction provided to the Sites Project Authority staff. This direction will be incorporated into the next draft of the benefits obligation contracts to advance the project, advance it to the final draft that will be included in the resolution to offer capacity. There are some continuing discussions and continuing kind of workshops that will be going on for some specific items that, we're sitting in a room for about 9 hours. You do come up with ideas, but sometimes it's just not enough time to really think through all of the ramifications of specific language. So there's a little bit more work being done, and it is will be incorporated into that next draft. Moving on to staff activities. So on April 23rd, 2026, DWA conducted an emergency preparedness and response meeting for members of the agency's Emergency Operations Center, our EOC, that are assigned to our incident command system. And we had the opportunity really just to get together to go over our emergency response plan. The platforms are available to us. Riverside County Emergency Services Department recently implemented their web EOC, their web Emergency Operations Center, which is an information sharing software platform designed to enhance situational awareness among operational area partners during emergency incidents. And during this meeting, we were introduced to the web EOC user. We were provided user accounts. We logged in, we saw how it worked, and were able to actually look at live events that were happening. There was nothing major going on, but there was an older event in there that had some updates. and received an introductory overview and a tutorial on its functionality. We also reviewed the EPA guidelines for responding to drinking water contamination emergency, and this refresher provided best practices and gave our staff an opportunity to discuss how recommendations would be applied to DWA's operational context. We concluded the day with the training with a tabletop exercise of our own emergency operations center, where we set up in here kind of a horseshoe or a circle where we were looking at each other, and we all had our positions that we were filling, which were our actual positions that we would be filling, whether it be an incident command officer. So David and I, we serve in that position, just kind of depending on what the emergency is and who's available, who really takes charge, and who's a part of who we have our technology, we have our finance, we have our construction department, our engineering department. We have everybody, a representative from everybody in there serving in different roles of the agency, so that we can properly respond in emergencies and keep this on the top of our mind, so that we're not trying to think if something happens, hope it's an if, we are prepared and ready and able to respond quickly. And so in that tabletop discussion, we had a hypothetical drinking water contamination scenario, and we practiced the decision-making, communication, and coordination processes consistent with the standardized emergency management system principles. Overall, the meeting strengthened DWA's emergency preparedness, enhanced staff familiarity with the regional emergency management tools, and identified opportunities for improving organizational resilience to better protect and serve the community. One of the things that has come out from these tabletop scenarios that we've been doing in our series of trainings that we've had is thinking practically about how we would respond, how it would impact our community. And one of those things is, well, making sure that we've hardened around key facilities and building that into our plan so that we can maintain water service for things such as a hospital, or we can maintain water service for key rally points for public health services and supplies, and for emergency shelters and things of that nature. So things that we're looking into the future to be able to fold into our planning process, so that if an emergency happens, if that large earthquake comes, we're ready to be able to react appropriately and to be able to continue to serve our community. Moving on to our announcements. So this one's a fun one. So as you know, we just recently adopted our mission, vision, and values in the last year. And this is, I will say, we applied for our first ever award, and we received that first ever award. This was from the 2026 EPIC Awards from the California Association of Public Information Officials for our mission, vision, values video. As you know, the video featured our own DWA employees and highlighted our strategic plan, our mission, vision, and values. We received the top honors in the category of video production marketing video, consultant supported during the Capio EPIC Awards ceremony that was held on May 12th in San Diego as a part of the Capio's annual conference. For these awards, they recognize excellence in the public sector communications throughout California, with more than 500 submissions received across all the categories this year. You know, DWA, I think that we do excellent work, and our staff work very, very hard in order to serve our community, in order to serve each other. And I think it's wonderful to be able to apply for these awards and receive the recognition for all of that hard work. And you can see a picture of us there receiving our award. Desert Water Agency just recently launched our new redesigned website. And I'd like to highlight Palm Springs Post this morning did highlight our website redesign as well, stating that we're big fans of website redesign. So we particularly pleased to tell you that Desert Water Agency has launched its newly redesigned website. This launch took place on May 11th following a multi-month modernization effort headed up by our Director of Conservation and Public Affairs, Victoria Lore, as well as our Public Affairs Department. They worked with every single department to review their material, ideas for adding things to the website, to be able to provide better information in a clearer way and in a more accessible and transparent way on our website. So overall, we are hoping that it improves our customer experience, accessibility, and overall usability. The updated website reflects DWA's continued commitment to transparency, engagement, and customer service. The key improvements include advanced ADA accessibility features, a mobile-friendly design is included, streamlined navigation, easier access to customer resources, conservation program, and agency updates. And it also aligns with our 2025 brand refresh that we undertook. On May 6th, Desert Water Agency held a blood drive here at the agency where we had 9 registered donors, 8 units of collected blood, and 2 first-time donors, which provided blood donations to potentially save up to 24 adults or 64 babies. And as a reminder, it is Memorial Day on Monday, May 25th, and the agency will be closed in observance of Memorial Day. For our engagement and outreach for the agency for these past several weeks, one of the engagement with federal and state legislative partners, we were in Washington, D.C. in conjunction with NWRA's Federal Water Issues Conference held in Washington, D.C. on April 27th to 29th. Vice President McKenna, Secretary Treasurer Ortega, and myself met with legislator offices to promote the agency's legislative priorities. The offices that we had the opportunity to meet with were the offices of Senator Adam Schiff, Senator Alex Padilla, and Representative Ken Calvert. I do have that we met with Representative Raul Ruiz's office. Unfortunately, I neglected to update this after that meeting was canceled while we were there. And however, we did reschedule for a staff meeting with the office this last Thursday, and happy to report that we did secure a letter in support of our site's reservoir water rights initiative. Also, we had the opportunity while we were at the Aqua Spring Conference held in Sacramento on May 5th to 7th to meet with a few offices there as well, where President Bloomer, myself, and Public Affairs Conservation Director Victoria Lore met with legislator offices to promote our state legislative priorities. The offices we met with were Senator Rosalia Ochoa Bogue and Representative Greg Wallace. Moving on to the item support for Aqua's Vision for Our Water Future initiative. Desert Water Agency will be submitting a position letter in support of the Association of California Water Agencies Vision for Our Water Future initiative. By submitting this letter, DWA will be listed on Aqua's website as a vision partner. This direction was discussed, suggested direction was discussed with our executive committee, and this the letter, they were in support of submitting this letter. Supporting this initiative allows DWA to remain engaged in the broader statewide water policy discussions, and staff will continue to monitor developments related to the initiative and provide updates to the board as appropriate. Esri is a global technology company that does specialize in geographic information systems, GIS otherwise referred to here at the agency, location intelligence and spatial analytics. DWA utilizes Esri's ArcGIS platform for our own GIS program, enabling us to collect, manage, and analyze and visualize geographic data to support our own decision-making. On May 13, 2026, Esri held the 2026 Southern California Water Forum at their headquarters in Redlands, California. DWA was requested to provide a presentation on the implementation of our own GIS program to share our transformation story and the essential elements that allowed us to be successful. They've highlighted us as a program that they felt has had tremendous success in our vision for the program, its implementation, and its adoption by our staff, and has praised us for those efforts and wanted to highlight the agency. So I was able to present on DWA's behalf because unfortunately I was not able to get our GIS specialist to do it. She was not too keen on making the presentation with all of the participants. But the main takeaways are that in order to be successful in implementing a program like this, it really does take alignment all levels of the organization, from the board of directors support and funding to executive leadership to prioritize and support the program efforts, and staff to drive the implementation with real boots on the ground knowledge of our system and acceptance into their own daily operations and routines. It also takes utilizing the strengths and expertise of other organizations, learning from lessons learned, as well as taking advantage of services of where their expertise are, so we can focus on developing our own systems and programs and what we do best, which is knowing our own operations. And also not developing your program in a silo. You need to be able to take a step back, gain input from the entire organization, and get a game plan together. It really does take strategic thinking and continuing to monitor and update that plan as things change. So we have some amazing staff that has worked on our GIS implementation, specifically our senior GIS specialist, Heather Marks, who has been a force to be reckoned with in the implementation of this program and been a driving force, as well as managers like engineering manager Ryan Mulhook and assistant general manager and chief engineer David Tate, who are not afraid to ask, why have we done things this way? Because just because we have a saying around here that comes up often, just because it's the way that it's always been done doesn't mean that we have to continue to do it that way. And they've been examples of one that have really been able to do that along with Heather and not afraid to change. Okay, moving on to our system leaks. It's been since we didn't have the first board meeting in May due to the Aqua Conference. This is a little bit longer and more extensive of a list. It encompasses 27 days. So the 39 leaks is approximately 1.4 leaks per day. Our annual average from January to this point is about 1.2. So it's a little bit more than average, which we typically see on the shoulder seasons when it's starting to get a little bit warmer and the temperature is starting to rise much more. So we are seeing a little bit of an uptick, but it still remains consistent that our issue still remains on our bare unlined steel pipes, which is why we continue to focus on those for a replacement program. And with that, I'd like to move on to management activities and pass it off to HR Director Hopping for some highlights on her activities over the past several weeks.
So as far as highlights go, the one is the CVHRP meeting, the monthly that we started. That's the group of other HR leaders throughout the valley. So like City of Indio's there, CVWD, City of Banning, City of Beaumont. So we're trying to get more and more of the HR directors involved. And that really helps with our recruiting efforts, and we're sharing any difficult pinch points with each other. And now that it's an ongoing monthly thing, I think it's been really helpful for us all to share ideas and things like that. So I just wanted to highlight that I'm happy to be a part of that group, and I'm glad we're continuing it and growing it. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it for the highlights.
Now I'd like to pass it off to Finance Director Slough for his meetings and activity highlights.
Thank you, General Manager Sines. Just like to highlight a few of the meetings I attended since last report. April 22nd, I attended the Aqua Investment Subcommittee where we reviewed the Aqua investment policy and the March investment activities. Then on April 23rd, I attended the first of 2 Finance Committee meetings to go over the draft budget for next fiscal year. There at the end of April, I was able to squeeze in a week-long vacation. Then on last week, on Wednesday, I attended the State Water Project Audit and Finance Committee meeting. And then not listed on here, but yesterday we did have the second of the Finance Committee meetings to review the remaining portions of the budget that we will be bringing forward on the first meeting in June. Thank you.
And Public Affairs and Conservation Director Lord.
General Manager Sines, Madam President, members of the board, good morning. Quite a lengthy list of meetings, but just some general highlights. This is for the full month of April. As General Manager Sines mentioned, our website did go live, so you'll see lots of website planning meetings, both with Streamline as well as the Public Affairs Department. Definitely want to give a shout out to Public Affairs Manager Sochi Pena and Senior Specialist Nisha Ajmani, who really in the last week while we were at the Aqua Conference really pulled that together, which was great, and it's gone live. And we've only heard good things, but if there are any comments or suggested changes, we are here for any of it. Additionally, as you'll see, we continue to work on the contract with our AMI customer portal vendor. Hopefully you'll see that coming in the next month or so for signature. And then additionally, some continued legislative activities, both prepping for the DC trip that some of you, as well as General Manager Sines, attended, and biweekly updates with both our state and federal advocates and a lot of the Aqua State Ledge Committee or the Monday morning lobby groups. Thank you.
Okay, and some brief highlights on additional meetings and events that I have participated in other than the ones that have already been mentioned is on April 22nd, we had a annual coordination group tour. So this is with Metropolitan Water District, Desert Water Agency, and Coachella Valley Water District. As you know, we coordinate our deliveries of the Colorado River water according to our exchange agreement with Metropolitan for deliveries to Mission Creek and West Whitewater replenishment facilities. And we have a monthly coordination meeting, but on an annual basis, we do like to get together in person, expand that meeting, have additional information presented, plans for the year, and kind of grounding for the next year, as well as we try to squeeze in a tour. And this time it was our turn to give a tour of our facilities. We went up to Snow Creek, and while, you know, Snow Creek is not a facility that's utilized for the activities that we do with Metropolitan. We highlighted that as well as the recharge facilities at the West Whitewater, and we were receiving some deliveries at that point in time at that replenishment facility. So we were able to see those facilities for our replenishment program. And most of all, what this event does is establishes and strengthens those relationships that we have with CVWD and Metropolitan Water District as we work together so closely, because they are our partners that make our replenishment program possible. Also engaged in several Metropolitan Water District Exchange Agreement extension meetings. Attended the NWRA conference. And on May 1st, I had a couple-hour virtual Aqua JPIA leadership cohort meeting. That's a part of that year-long leadership training that I've been participating in, where we meet once a month. On a quarterly basis, we meet in person for a couple days, and that will be coming up this next month for my second to last in-person one. On May 4th, we had State Water Contractors Class 8 quarterly meeting that took place in San Bernardino, where we met with the rest of the Class 8 State Water Contractors to go over. This time was over mostly around the finances of the State Water Project at this meeting. Attended the Aqua Spring Conference in Sacramento. And while up there, I was able to meet with all the rest of the general managers for the that are participating in the Delta Conveyance Project to go over governance and project development issues at that level. Attended the Sites Benefit Obligation negotiations that following day on that Friday on May 8th. As well as on the 14th, we had the Energy Sustainability Committee meeting where we met with the committee to review how staff envisions energy to be addressed in our upcoming general plan update and the mapped out general plan update timeline. And as Finance Director Slough had indicated yesterday, had the Finance Committee meeting to go over the budget before it gets to the full board, the draft presentation of the full board that will be happening at the June 2nd meeting. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions, Director Bowman?
None from me.
Director Grasha?
I just want to compliment you and the entire staff on an excellent, your manager's report highlights all of the efforts that you guys have been putting into kind of getting your feet on the ground, basically a new management team, in my view. And what an excellent job you are doing and every one of you is doing. And it makes sitting here so easy that I'm almost feel guilty getting paid for it. Not quite yet, but I could see it coming.
I know it wasn't a question, but I would like to capitalize on that. Recently, I've really been feeling that we've just been hitting our stride, and I'm incredibly happy with the management team that we have here at DWA as well as with staff. You know, it's a pleasure to work with them every single day, and I feel we have great working relationships and we're able to communicate well and collaborate well and to really just get the job done. It's really a pleasure working with them all.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer Ortega?
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Vice President McKenna?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on what I think are a couple of areas of special excellence on what the staff is doing. The award for video, well deserved. I mean, it was just incredible that our own people could do that stuff, you know, as amateurs. So that was terrific. I'm really happy to see the emergency planning discussion go on. It happens that I worked in both states where you had examples of emergencies, Hawaii and West Virginia. And anyone who lived through the 1994 earthquake in Los Angeles, as I did, knows you're never really ready when an emergency occurs. But the more planning you do, the more thinking you do, the more ready you will be and the more capable we will be at coping with, you know, the inevitable disaster of the big earthquake. So I'm really pleased to see that we're working on that and focusing on that. And I congratulate you all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I do not have any questions. So we will move on to item number 11, Director's Reports on Meetings and Events attended on behalf of the agency, compensable events. And we'll start with Director Bowman.
Thank you very much. On April 22nd, I attended the Agua Caliente Water Authority board meeting. The big thing that was done that day was they accepted the annual groundwater conditions report that was put together. I attended the Aqua conference, like the majority of people in this room, it seems. And there were highlights to me that I'd like to share. One was on the JPIA day, I think that was Monday, there was a whole discussion on AI. And in that room, there were people asking questions that I felt they knew nothing about AI. And they were wondering, how does it work? And I'm proud of our staff that you guys get it, know it, and use it. From that meeting, however, there were a couple things that I'll ask our staff. Do we have a policy on AI? And secondly, do we have any staff subcommittee where you're huddling up and sharing and encouraging and educating one another on this topic?
To answer the second question first, no, we don't. It is something where we will definitely need to continue to address. However, to answer your question number one, I feel is the foundation to be able to start that process where we have a policy that is about 99% complete. We're in the final review process of that and circulating it with staff to be able to get their feedback, to then be able to present it to the board, to be able to adopt, to create the initial foundation, to then be able to build off of and for the future.
wonderful. I figured such, but I just wanted to make sure, throw it out there. They did talk about there is a, one of the districts was using a software or an AI software that, pardon me, they put all of their old data scanned into the system. And of course, it's a closed system. We keep it protected from the outside world so that you guys can be completely thorough with it. And that they would, when they would ask a question, it would go to all their artifacts. And I thought that was brilliant. Okay. I attended a meeting that was entitled Vision for Our Water Future, Setting the Agenda, Bold Actions for California's Next Administration. And that title in and of itself, we don't know what and who will be our next governor. And the three participants, one was the CEO of Cal Chamber, the other was the executive director of the Nature Conservancy, and the GM of Metropolitan Water District. Three potentially opposing groups. They had such a call to unity in spite of the possibly competing thoughts and ideas. It was really well done. And my takeaway was if their staff listens to what they had to say, that we as a water agent or the Aqua can present to the next governor, whoever they may be, here's what the issues are. I was encouraged by that. I also attended probably the most packed room that I saw at the Aqua when it dealt with sites. And there I thought a lot of people didn't know what's going on with sites. And thankfully we do. And lastly, at Aqua, there was the golden mussel vendors, how to deal with golden mussels in the vendor room. And I thought, I've never, so everybody's on that. On the 12th, I went to the State of the City, Cathedral City. It was wonderful. Back in 2003, I met a guy named John Aguilar and his husband, Bruce Abney. They were opening up the El Morocco Inn in Desert Hot Springs when my wife and I were opening up a living water spa. And I have known John for that time, saw when he was appointed to the Cathedral City Chamber, Council, and then ran and won again, and then was mayor. And he was awarded a Mark Carnival Legacy Award, the first legacy award given. And all that, and he's also a director of CVWDs. And so the guy is just amazing, and I was very honored for him. On the 13th, the All Valley Chamber, which was great. The 14th, DVBA Mixer. And on the 17th, No Before Fishing Red Flags. That concludes my time.
Okay, Director Grasha?
So I'm going to go backwards. Start with yesterday's meetings. Coachella Valley Water District held a special meeting to appoint a new director in the District 4, Division 4. It was high drama, as I suspected it might be. Nearly went to the Board of Supervisors. It seemed to me anyway. It was 2-2. Anyway, it was nice to see that. I got to say, President Powell handled that. I mean, if you didn't know that it was dramatic, if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to tell just by watching the meeting. And he talked about how, in his case, when he was first appointed to the board, and how it had to go to the County Board of Supervisors because it was a 2-2 tie and the drama of that, and basically laying out the future of the board. So the Director Estrada broke the tie, and then it was 4-0 to appoint Alex Sanchez, who seemed to me to have been born for that role. There were three or four, I think there were four nominees, and the young lady she'll run the world at some point in the future, but that day will come, no doubt for her. And then there was a gentleman that had worked for CVWD and retired. Anyway, I think they've made a great choice, and it will hold up the test of time. Then we go back to I attended the Harvey Milk Diversity Breakfast, not as a private citizen. I wanted to suggest that maybe at some point our community affairs look at potentially sponsoring that. There are sponsorships from throughout the school board, the city, the fire department, the police. Everybody's there except us. And if you look around the room, well over 1,000 people. They all are from Palm Springs. It's not a bunch of guys that drove in from out of town to, like some of the events that we attend. They're really not people from Palm Springs. A lot of people come to these things from out of town. This is basically an event that includes people, our customers. And so maybe we could take a look at that on our next agenda. I think it's coming up. And then we had the Coachella Valley Water District Board meeting, which was on the 12th. Then the IT security training for Desert Water Agency was on the 11th. And then the Aqua Conference from the 4th until the 7th. I have I couldn't I couldn't convince myself I needed to make notes, because while you're hearing these things, you're thinking, now that's something I want to bring up. So I want to point out to the one thing, and Mr. Bauman mentioned this himself. So, and I had a similar thought, except my view on the policy for AI is that not to have a policy. You'll know when you need one. I think it's, learn as you go, and if somebody screws up, we'll point and laugh. You'll know pretty easily, but if you start trying to put limits on the use of certain things, then you're limiting the potential of its impact on the people that have positions at the agency that it might be able to help, and other people it might cause them to fear going out there and trying it out. So it's, to me, what did we listen to? Lawyers giving their ideas on the experiences they had as lawyers, and then the courts, deciding, well, this goes away because, you used AI, limitations and all such. It's a very complicated thing. And I've been caught in it myself. I got a call from the general manager telling me, hey, you can't do it, and that was AI took over my, I signed into my website, and it asked me if I wanted to utilize AI to help build the website. And I said, sure I do. And then AI took over the front page from what I had put there and changed it. And and apparently the sign saw the change. That was a big mess that was able to be caught. It got caught, but but it was definitely, anyway, this is my thinking anyway. And I don't want to, my thinking is that you'll know when you need a policy, and you'll also know when things are problems that we need to deal with with a policy. But right now I don't know that we're there, but I can see the day coming when it's going to be start crawling into places, creeping in a way that we're not going to want to not have control over it. So then we had the CVWD board meeting on the 28th, and then back to the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce held an event that I attended, and I think that's it. There is let's look at the upcoming calendar, because in case you didn't catch it, there's a Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce event here in Palm Springs with our city manager. So if you didn't see it,
That's
is that
BBBA.
okay? Yeah, Desert. Yeah, okay, yeah. So if you didn't see that, try to get there. I think it'll be nice to see Scott Stiles give a report. And I see that Indio, who just had their city manager speak at one of the leaders' lunches. Now they're doing it again because that city manager is out, retired, and they have a new city manager. And I think that might be something that you might want to get to know who they picked for their next the next phase of Indio. It's the largest city in the desert, so I don't know how much impact they really have on us, but they are trying to steal our customer base. There's no doubt that this movement, the Greater Coachella Valley, Greater Palm Springs movement, is all an attempt to drag our guests and revenue to another.
Okay.
So I get it, but it's happening, and you can see it in the numbers, and it's a thing to pay attention to. And I think that takes me back to the beginning or the last meeting.
Okay. Secretary Treasurer Ortega.
Thank you. So going back to the last board meeting, which was on April 21st, I did attend the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission meeting that evening. I guess that would be considered non-compensable since I was already being compensated for the board meeting that I attended earlier that day. The sustainability, there was a new director of sustainability for the city of Palm Springs. It was her second day on the job, and I presented her with a conservation kit at the start of the meeting that we recently received last month at that same board meeting. And so that was sort of like the welcome wagon, I guess, from the Desert Water Agency. Then on the 23rd, attended the first Finance Committee meeting related to the upcoming budget that we'll be discussing in June. And that was mentioned already by our Director of Finance. From the 27th to the 29th, attended the NWRA Federal Affairs, Federal Issues Symposium, and also, as previously mentioned by our General Manager, attended several meetings on Capitol Hill. On the 1st of May, I completed the No B4 Internet Safety Training. From the 4th to the 7th, attended the Aqua Conference. The highlights for me, and I had talked about this sort of generally prior board meetings, the announcement of the new executive director for Aqua, which I am really, really happy to see somebody like Ms. Namath in that job starting in September. And I think she had already been asked to participate in that panel at the end of this conference on SB 72. And there was her role slightly changed from being a member of the panelists to becoming the moderator. I think if no one really knew her, or maybe still was questioning whether she should be that person at Aqua, I think she proved that she should be that person at Aqua because she was excellent and really, really, really understands the issues that the state is facing, because she's been pivotal in that role at DWR for a very long time. So that was the highlight for me, I think. On the 12th, attended the Cathedral City State of the City with several other board members and some staff. I thought that was a really great event. And it just shows so much of the excitement of what's happening in Cathedral City, which of course is part of our district. And then on the 13th, the following evening, the All Valley chamber mixer at the Palm Springs Air Museum. I was not so expecting to see so much food as part of that event. So that was kind of fun. And then on the 14th, the Energy Ad Hoc Committee, I'm going to let our chair of that ad hoc committee speak more about that in a moment. And then finally, yesterday afternoon was the second Finance Committee meeting related to the 2026-2027 budget. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Vice President McKenna.
Right. There's a lot of stuff on here. So since the April 21st meeting, I attended the NWRA conference in Washington, D.C., and we made 3 visits to legislators' office on Capitol Hill. I think those are probably the most useful things we do when we go to Washington. And they were particularly interesting. This time, I usually come back and say, well, nothing's happening in Washington, but certainly something is happening. There's a budget process underway in the background, and certain items that we rely on are being eliminated, so we lobbied to get them back in. I noticed movement on the tax deductibility of our rebates. You know, there's a mechanism to do that without the legislature having to do it. It's an administrative process by the Secretary of the Treasury. And that does seem to be moving along. I'm hopeful there. So that's something for 3 years we've gone and said, can you do this? And this time something actually is seemingly may happen, hopefully. That was the 27th, 28th, and 29th of April. In May 5th, 6th, and 7th, went to the Aqua Conference, Spring Conference in Sacramento. I think the highlight for me was a new, they call her executive director. A stellar choice, you know, assuming that Gavin Newsom was not available. She's probably the best choice for the job. Really knows Sacramento extremely well. The highlight of that conference for me was the governor's speech to the meeting. As an autistic person, he works without notes and without a teleprompter. He probably went through 100 or 150 data points on water activities in the last 7 years. He knows them all intimately. And I was very, very impressed. I mean, he would have been a great executive director, but I presume he's going to go on and do something else. I suspect he's going to do something different. I lost my calendar. Here we go. Also in May, went to Cathedral City, State of the City. I like to go to this. I think we should go to as many city events as possible. You know, we are heavily intertwined with policy decisions that we want to have here, but really need to be implemented by them. So the more we get out and talk to these people, the better. Of course, they all pat themselves on the back and describe what a wonderful job they're doing. They're doing their best, you know, but I left that meeting and I drove up Dayton Palm Drive past a former Ace Hardware store that closed, a Rite Aid that closed, a 99-cent store that closed. You know, it's not all forward motion when we talk to these cities, but we have to support them as best we can. 13th of May, the All Valley Chamber of Commerce. Great meeting, lots and lots of people. Good networking opportunity. 14th, Executive Committee. That's also, you know, well worth doing, obviously. After that, we had an ad hoc energy sustainability committee. That body will take a kind of a hiatus, I think. It's the activity of that committee is probably going to subsumed into a more general planning effort that the agency will be doing. So I think for the next several months, it will not meet. The focus will be on the whole agency planning. It's definitely worth a look at, you know, how we cope with possible emergencies, how we cope with rising utility costs, how we cope with population growth or lack of it, how we deal, what will conservation do to the, you know, the volume of water we deliver and the cost of it and how much we charge our customers. There's a whole spectrum of things that are bigger than just energy sustainability. And that process, I see staff is beginning, you know, getting to go on it. I'm delighted to see that. I've been plugging away at plan. Sorry. And remember what Eisenhower said, the plan is probably useless when the emergency happens, but the planning is never useless because you know how to respond. You know what you can do and what you can't do. So I'm very anxious to see that happen. 14th. Oh, I tuned into Mission Springs. I do that one by Zoom usually. Mission Springs Water District Board meeting yesterday. There is still a lot of public dissent about this ID8 area of Coachella Valley. Two people came from Sky Valley, came and spoke to the meeting. They're very unhappy that they're not being consulted. And I think Coachella Valley should take the blame for that. This emerged from almost nowhere. There was not a lot of public input before the proposal got to the public. I just think it's being handled badly. Nobody seems to know why it's happening. Nobody seems to know who's causing it. There just needs to be more outreach from both those agencies to the people involved. And we need to be careful too. You know, there are implications for what happens when we have jurisdiction over some of Mission Springs activities, but not all of them. And I'm pondering, how is this best done? And we had a speaker there who said, well, if we get absorbed into Mission Springs, I'm going to start campaigning to have Mission Springs absorbed by Desert Water Agency. Like that would be a bad thing. But the public is just not tuned in to how this works. Another point that came up just for interest, really, their operations manager, Danny Friend, is reporting theft activity at their sites. And he says this is on the upswing in the western end of the Coachella Valley. So a note to staff, you know, keep an eye on how secure are we at our facilities from theft. Copper wire theft is huge. You know, these things are valuable. So let's just keep an eye on that. And that was it for me.
Okay, thank you. So my activity since the last board meeting on April 23rd was the first Finance Committee meeting regarding budget. I was in Sacramento for JPIA board meeting and Aqua May 3rd through to the 7th. And as I already mentioned, we met with Assemblymember Wallace's office and also State Senator Ochoa Bogue's office while we were there attending the conference. At the JPIA board meeting, we reelected 2 board members were up and they both ran and got reelected to the JPIA board. The JPIA finance, what's the committee? Anyway, their investment arm is reported doing very well with all of their investments over the past couple of years, which has helped keep rates in all the pools pretty steady, especially in the property pool. There were a couple of major incidences with very large claims on them, but they were able to manage those and keep rates. I think they're projecting about a 10% increase in that pool. And then we also voted to change the bylaws and update the fiscal year to match the fiscal year for most water agencies. So it's switching to a July 1st fiscal year start for JPA. And let's see. It was nice to hear Gavin Newsom speak at the last session of the Aqua Conference while we were there. And then on May 12th, I also attended the Cathedral City State of the City. And later that evening, I attended the Palm Springs Chamber mixer that was sponsored by Eisenhower at Spencer's Restaurant. And then on May 13th, I attended the All Valley Chamber mixer at the Palm Springs Air Museum, where Desert Water Agency was a sponsor and was providing the best tasting water in the place. And on May 14th, I had executive committee meeting. And on May 18th was a second finance committee regarding budget. A non-compensable event that I attended on May 15th was the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians 150-year anniversary. event. It was down at their cultural plaza. The museum was also open with free admission. And I got a chance to chat with Kate Anderson and also with the newly named tribal chairman, Jeff Gruby, as well. So with that, those are all my events. And now we will move into item number 11, item number 12, director's comments and requests. Director Bowman?
Yeah, just a comment. The first time I ever heard Gavin Newsom speak was 2016 at an Aqua conference in Anaheim. Governor Brown was slated to be the speaker, and for whatever reason, he didn't make it, and he had his Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom speak. And we who were at the conference were like, oh man, Brown's not going to be speaking. Who is this guy, Newsom? He spoke for a half an hour extemporaneously with details about water in California. It blew minds. People didn't quite understand how he could know so much and didn't have notes. And I was glad that when he spoke at the Aqua, he did the same thing. He wowed at least me, and it was awesome. That's it.
Thank you. Director Grasha?
I thought about saying something about the AI situation in our, up in the north end on Indian. But I'll leave it at this. I think we need to know more than the average Joe out on the street on the subject. And so I just want to mention it again. I don't know what that means, but it's going to be a big pull for attention. We need to be able to defend ourselves with knowledge if it comes to us like it seems to be. And if what's going on in Coachella starts happening here, it'll be interesting. And I'm not sure it will. Part of what's being said about this location in our district is that it's owned by the tribe. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a question that I'd like an answer to.
It's tribal land, and then they're having a joint meeting with the city.
No, well, that's for the Amazon facility, but the land where this that's across from Coachella, across Indian, right across the street, is tribal owned. They bought the land. This is the rumor, Facebook rumor. That this is why I want to get an answer, because if that's true, then then.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Ortega.
Thank you. There was a comment, I think it was Vice President, I almost called you Vice President Bowman. Vice President McKenna commented about attending more of these sort of state of the city and chamber events. I wasn't sure if he was referring to outside of our immediate area or not necessarily. So I just wanted to mention that I will be attending the State of the City for the City of Indio tomorrow morning at Fantasy Springs Casino for their breakfast. But that will obviously not be a compensable event, but I will be there in attendance anyway. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, Vice President McKenna.
Yeah, I wanted to just briefly address that AI question. I'm dabbling in it. I've asked AI a couple of questions in recent weeks. One of them was about pool chemistry, and it knew the size of my swimming pool, which I hadn't remembered myself. So I spent a day or two trying to figure out how it knew that, and I came up with the answer. Let me ask AI how it knew that. And apparently they have access to all of the high-resolution aerial imagery that's ever been done. So it had looked at this aerial imagery and figured out the size of my pool. And that struck me as being very useful for us because we are trying to assess water budgets for people so we could do tiered rates. We're trying to figure out how much landscaping is attached to each customer. And there it is. AI probably already knows the answer. So that one, and also as we talk about leaks, it seems to me AI could be predictive on where we're going to get some leaks. Obviously, we have our own intuition, it's old pipeline, et cetera, but there may be patterns in the leaks in our system that we haven't seen that AI may see. So here's another implication of where we could use AI. There's obviously lots of dangers. You don't want to let it loose completely, but somebody should be thinking about this, and it isn't me. I'm just dabbling with it, but I don't say we need a policy, but we need a direction at least. So, sorry, that's it.
Okay, I just have one comment that came up when we were visiting State Assembly Member Wallace. He asked us he was getting calls to his office regarding non-functional turf ordinance and making conservation as a California way of life. HOAs having to remove, X amounts of grass at whatever thousands of dollars and assessments and things like that. And we just told him to refer all of these inquiries to our DWA staff because we want to make sure that every customer is getting the same message and the correct message from staff, and they have records of all the information that they've given them so far and meetings attended and things like that. So I just wanted to point out too, as directors, we're going to get comments or questions. So if you do get something from a constituent, is just refer them to DWA staff so they're getting all the correct information. I know city council members have also reached out saying, what am I supposed to tell these people? They're calling me, and it's the same kind of answer as this: contact DWA. And we also mentioned to, Assembly Member Wallace obviously knows this, but also city staff, is that it's not a DWA policy that we came up with that we're trying to implement, that it's a state policy and mandate that we have the good fortune of having to implement. So that's just my comment on that. And with that, we can adjourn. Or not adjourn, adjourn into closed session on items 13A through C. And we will reconvene at 10:15 in closed session. Okay, we'd like to return into open session and report that there was no action taken during closed section, no reportable action taken during closed session, and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.